no worries. Somebody else? Somebody else? I think.
Hi, Colleen.
Hi, Colleen. Welcome.
Good morning.
Michael, I think Steve Solis is online too with us, possibly.
Okay.
Is Kelvin on the bridge?
Yes, I am.
There we go. Just want to be sure, buddy. All right. So we got that information. So let's put it this way. The email that got sent out initially, there was a couple of options that we're kind of looking at. One is I'd say, a scheduled data pool, whether it be nightly or otherwise. That's one of the options initially that was kind of being looked into. And then, of course, with a main data pool, we have all this list of information that we needed to be taking in, like all the license types, all the different boards associated with it. And that basically is the requirement on that one. So the other one basically is a web service, and I'm kind of assuming here that, whatever that has been presented in terms of that email, those list of information that we need, is different than the web service pool that we're kind of looking at, because basically this one will be an on-demand pool, I suppose, which is basically related to a specific person that we're kind of looking, or organization that we're kind of looking at. So it's not a big pool; it's a individualized pool, and that's basically why we're having this meeting, anyways. That because in order for us to be able to quote properly, and even see whether this thing is feasible, is basically we need to know. The kind of scenario you're kind of looking at. The information that we have here is that Shelby County folks basically have a customized, licensing system, and they would want to code within their system. They would want to code something to call a web service and extract specific information from Versa. Is that a correct understanding?
Yes. By the way, this is Colleen. We have a code enforcement software package called Acela, and when somebody signs in and creates an account saying that I'm a contractor and that I have a state license, what we'd like to do is once they enter in their license number, if we can call a web service on the state and say, hey, is this guy valid? Does he have a bond? Does he have certain information? Is he legit, basically? And then periodically what we'd like to do is on a regular basis just kind of go and hit the state for anybody we have in our system just to make sure that the license hasn't expired, that they're still valid for an X amount of bond amount, and certain other information. Does that make sense?
All right, so I'm assuming you'll be customizing this enforcement application to or system that you have right now. For example, somebody enters their license number, they click a button, and it basically calls the web service, right?
Yes.
And then how do you want that? That's the first thing, right? So basically, you have the license number, and do you have this? Because one of the questions that we're kind of putting forward is what inputs are you giving the web service to be able to extract the information that you guys require, right? So you're saying you have on the get-go you have the license number. What information do you guys have that you will be triggering to sending off to the web service other than the license number?
Well, I guess my question to you would be, what kind of keys do you have? Because we have name and license number and some other information that we can get from the person who is setting it up. But I need to know what your keys are. What would be best to call you with? If I have a state license number, is that enough to call and then we verify name and stuff? And make sure that it matches?
Yeah, this is Peter Hart from MicroPack. So I'm not 100% familiar with the people that are doing. I guess you're doing building permits or something like that. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I don't know how many different quote license types of contractors there are, but pretending there's only a couple of them. The license, if there's more than one, the license number may not be sufficient. The way that the Versa system allows is the license number doesn't have to be unique within the system. It just has to be unique typically within the license type. So as a minimum, we would probably want to have the license type, even if it's only one for a while. It would just allow for expandability in the future should there be another license type added in the future that's also a contractor type.
Yeah, I would say.
Number. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, so this is Jenica with RegBoards. It looks like there's 5 license types here, so they would have to choose whether they're a contractor, an electrician, an alarm contractor, home improvement, and then put in their license number.
Okay. So that would be necessary, the type and then the license number, and that would be sufficient for typically for Versa to find the information, assemble it, and give it back to you in whatever the format is that we're giving it back to you, whatever, some XML structure, whatever, I don't know, but.
Okay. And can I get a set list of all your different license types so that I can make sure that they do like a drop-down value on my side?
Yeah, I can send that to you, Colleen.
That would be great. Thank you.
This is Peter. I'm sure I'm coming into this late. I was invited just yesterday, but I am pretty familiar with a lot of things. So a couple of questions just in general. I don't know who can answer these. Are they going to hit Versa regulation or Versa online? Do we think, and how are they authenticating?
I think right now Versa regulation is probably best because we don't have public search Versa Online Live right now. As you know, our Verify is just in a data export right now, so I think Versa regulation will probably be best.
It's just that Versa and Kelvin is the technical guy on the call. Versa Online is already exposed to the internet. Versa regulation, as far as I know, is behind a firewall. So I'm not quite sure.
I mean, if it's easier to do Versa Online, I just want you to know that we don't have public search live via Versa Online.
I'm not suggesting that we do a public search. I'm just saying that would be the server that they would connect to, and then it would communicate, and it would communicate as a service to Versa regulation in the way that the public search works. Kelvin, you're coming into this probably pretty late too. What do you think of that as the architectural approach, or what do you suggest?
Well, usually all web services reside in Versa regulation.
Okay.
So that's why I was more leaning towards Versa regulation, but you're correct. The people on the call may need to speak to their infrastructure people to confirm whether at least the VR server under services will be available to the public. Like, again, I don't know if you guys are within the same LAN or WAN or whatever it is. So the accessibility portion, you might need the infrastructure team to confirm. But if VR is accessible by, the system that's calling it, then that would be the preferred place to put it.
Yeah. My expectation is it won't be, Kelvin, because the Shelby group are probably a local government, and they're probably not on the state network, is my guess. But this is something I think has to be thought of, and that's why I thought it's easier to expose the Versa Online to the real world, because it already is, and that you provide us, some magical SSL type service, some kind of credential.
Well, this is Colleen. I understand that we have a site-to-site VPN with the state. Now, I don't know if that. I know it's with the state, but I don't know if it's with the Department of Commerce.
Michael, do you have any idea?
I am not sure. So what system are you accessing right now with the state?
Yeah, so this is Steve Solis. Do y'all, does the Department of Commerce utilize OIR services? I know it's not called OIR anymore.
Yeah, STS now, yeah.
Okay, and so our site-to-site VPN essentially goes through or connects to the OIR network, and we access several different systems within state of Tennessee's internal network that way.
Okay. If you want to send me a list of systems, I'll check with our network folks and see if we can use that to get into our core server.
Sure. So that's just an architectural question. I think the rest we can continue on and decide.
John, you're on the call. John Stewart, Shelby County.
He's on mute. Let me see if I can take him off mute.
Can you all hear me?
There, John? Now we can.
Yeah, we can hear you now. Get with Leonard on that.
Will do.
On providing what it is that we currently connect to, and perhaps maybe even a contact name that we've got with STS.
Will do.
Thanks.
Now, I did have a question. I did have a question on renewals, and this might be more of a business logic thing. On renewals, is the license number, does it stay the same or does it change?
The license number stays the same.
Okay.
Now, if the owner of the contracting company changes, then it'll get a new license number. So that, but they would know that once, and I would imagine that within your system, they'd be able to update their license number if they had to. Is that?
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Then what I can do is I can make a message or something on our side that says if they only have the old license number in there, that it's expired and they need to update it. And then I can check again.
Okay.
Hi, this is Kelvin from MicroPact. I heard something. So I heard about just a call with the license number and the license type. However, I also heard something about wanting to update it periodically. That part I'm actually curious as to what you mean by that, and whether a separate service needs to happen, or are you guys just going to call the web service in a loop, or?
So what I want to do is update my system. I don't want to update the state system. I just want to pull from the state and get information, and then I can update the Acela side with any information such as, license expired. What I was planning on doing was, in a batch process at night, go through on a periodic basis, go through and check all my license holders to make sure that the registration is up to date and that it hasn't expired, or if they got renewed, then I got the latest renewal date. I was going to do that in a loop in a batch program and then call the web service. But I want to do that at night, not during work days. And if that's something we need to work out a time, we can do that too.
I was actually going to say that, to me, what was stated, just from a technical perspective, might be faster if we generate an output file on the VR side and you just load that output file, because, again, web services could be disconnected halfway and so on and so forth, timed out, and that might be a problem. But currently there is no, as far as I know, there is no core process that does that, so it might need to be a customization, especially if it's very specific to complaints, and it seems like some RSDs and relations.
Yeah, so
just a thought.
This is Peter. Question for Shelby. So how many people would you be looking for in this nightly batch job? How many licenses would typically be affected?
Terry, do you know how many contractors we have in the system?
Colleen, right now, I know on the state contractors, it's probably going to be somewhere between 2,000 to 3,000 right now. And in addition to just the contractors the class code, the state classification also comes into play for these guys too, because they may carry a building license. They may also be capable from the state, have a CMC license, which could do mechanical, and they could also do plumbing as well.
Great. Just reaching out to Michael Flowers. Is there still a plan to provide an output file to Shelby?
I mean, that was what we were suggesting to do. They wanted to see about getting the web service. I mean, I agree that, you know, pinging our server 2,000 to 3,000 a night, or, you know, if it's on the weekend, it might not be that consuming of resources. But I just, you know, run the risk with us doing batch processes at night, and they usually run from 6 o'clock up to midnight, 2 o'clock in the morning. You know, finding a period that they could be done before business starts may impact, you know, reg boards and fire and insurance with core. I mean, that would be an ultimate decision of Jenica and reg boards, but, you know, my preference would probably be to do the nightly drop of the data, let them pull it or SFTP it to them, and then they can upload it to their product.
Good.
Yeah, that is another one.
Thank you, Mike. So I'm kind of looking at, you know, where things are right now in terms of the solution, right? So, and my understanding is, like, you know, I think it's better for the on-demand pool when we're actually validating that particular, individual or contractor, that is, that we could call that web service. But for you guys to basically kind of check what the status of all the other, you know, contractors that you have on the system, would it be better for you to just basically access that an output file that DCI basically is sending you?
We could, yes.
So, Ron, basically,
I'm open to what data I can get.
You know, this is Terry Parker again. You know, one of the things that we could do, speaking in open, their license expire every month, so we could do this once a month and not necessarily every day. But we could come up through web services. We could schedule it where it's once a month, and we collect all the data for those given license holders that do expire, that we get an update for the ones coming up. That may be an option as well.
Yeah, and we can do it on a weekend if it would cause less impact for you guys.
I mean, I'll leave it up to Jenica. I mean, it's a concern that, you know, we could, you know, max out resources even on the weekend with stuff running. So I just...
Yeah, I'd have to look at the batch processes that we pull on the weekends. I feel like our expiration and renewal batches would still run.
Yeah.
This is Peter. I think perhaps that was an excellent optimization. And just look at the ones that are expiring in the next month, and then get or whatever have recently expired, and see how big that data set is. Because you're talking about 2,000 or 3,000. If you cut that by if there's a 24-month renewal cycle, cut that by a factor of 24, then you're talking about 100 or 200 a month. That's not so bad.
Right.
So, I mean, I think a little bit of research possibly into that could be done, just to know what the size of it is. Because I think I'm just guessing that Shelby wants up-to-date data. That's the reason why, right? They don't want to change data. And any polls are always going to be dated. So getting it real time is great when you're doing the permit or whatever you're doing. Make sure they're still got a valid contractor license as of now. And then, you know, kind of tickle your system if you could. I guess I'm not assigning work because I'm not allowed to here, but see what the size would be if you cut it down into the 24 typically months that the state will split the renewal cycle over. I'm guessing that's what it is. I don't know that factually.
Well, we can do some checks on our side and see by month what kind of expiration dates we're looking at, and get some metrics over to you guys.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay.
All right, so Ron, do you all have enough to come up with a quote based on discussion today?
This is Kelvin from MicroPack. So the list of associates to each of the licenses, is that a relations or listed as relations?
Calvin, are you talking?
I'm more technical. So when you say so let's start at number 2. So first name, last name, license number, license classification, is that a modifier or a rank? And specialty classes, again, are those modifiers and ranks?
Those will be modifiers, I think.
Modifiers, right?
Yeah.
Monetary limits, is that an RSD or stored in an RSD?
It will be, yeah.
Okay.
There has to be mapping. I assume all the data, there's some things that we're not going to give them. Either, I guess, the state doesn't collect them or isn't prepared to provide them. So I don't think there's a big problem here in the mapping. I wouldn't worry about that. I think the big thing is which server we're going after, the authentication. Nobody's talked about authentication yet. And I'm not smart enough to tell you too much, but how, we're not just going to let anybody hit it, or are we?
Not VR, no.
No. And I believe on TNDCI, if not all, then at least most of the web services are protected with authentication already. Like even VO calling VR needs to pass a username and password. Remember, we had a problem.
I know about that one. So we have to come up.
Now we refresh our database. That happens.
So we would probably use a similar scheme for them. Is that what we think?
I assume it just would be a different user or something. Like this would be a customized web service, and so we might go after a certain hard-coded name and whatever the password is in there type of thing.
I think we need to make that assumption as part of our system. And then the rest.
So.
Not so bad.
Well, no, I was just trying to see, how many tables I have to hit in that web service, right? So the list of association, owner, agent, and qualified agent, I assume those are all relations of some sort, like entity to license relations.
They're all going to either be RSDs or relations, one or the other. We'll have to map it out when we get there.
Yeah. So, sorry, I wanted that too because I'm pretty sure Ron's going to ask me for the quote soon. So without kind of knowing that, it's harder for me to quote. That's why I'm asking now since nobody's asking.
Hey, Michael, can you send the table around that y'all came up with for them? Yeah, our BAs found kind of where all this data was in the table.
Okay.
So, so we can share that with you.
Yes, that would be great.
Awesome. Yeah.
All right, so Kelvin, you have what you need. Upon getting that list of tables and where the information resides, you have what you need to provide it back out?
Yes, with the biggest assumption that Shelby County can hit the VR server and that we're building the web service in VR.
Okay.
Because, again, VO doesn't currently support any type of web service, so I need to build the framework from scratch.
Sorry.
So I'll send this. I don't know if you can see my screen, Kelvin, but this is what Elizabeth came up with.
That would be great. I'll take a look at it. We have a copy of a database, so hopefully I could find some of it and confirm, and then I could give you a better guesstimate.
Okay. All right.
So right now, from my understanding, is that we're not doing a batch process. We're just doing a web service, assuming the numbers coming back from Shelby County is in the hundreds and not in the thousands or even hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess that's it on our end. Michael, anything else, guys, that you guys wanted to discuss?
Colleen, anybody from Shelby County have any questions or concerns?
I only have one other question. This is Peter. So Kelvin's going to map all of the stuff as he's describing. There's a likely necessity that we have to map it to some Shelby value. So if we give you Versa statuses that are alien, 20 and 37 and stuff, is there any information that Shelby can tell us in terms of transforming that data? And then the second thing is, do they have a preferred kind of output? Well, for example, Kelvin will probably design some XML structure. Can you live with that if you just tags it all?
Yeah, we've worked with XML structure, so that wouldn't be a problem.
So I would assume, Kelvin, that we're probably going to give them descriptions rather than codes, or you know what I mean,
right? Okay, that would be kind of in the DBR phase. So, well, whatever description we pull from the status table, let's say, then that's what we give, right? But I don't know, if active maps to, licensed or whatever on their end. Like they have to do that mapping, as you said, between their system and what is in VR.
I think that's up to Ron to decide how much you would engage somebody like me or whatever to work with them to do the mapping. Otherwise, they're just going to get Versa stuff and then they'll have to map it themselves. So.
And I do have a question. If you send me descriptions and those descriptions change, that might cause issues on my side without me knowing about it. So I might need the code and description. That way I can do a code table on my side, a list box or something, so that, if I'm looking for active and it's code AC, I can script accordingly. So I might need both, the code and description, or at least something that, because description is so easy to change.
It is, yeah. Agree. That's we just wanted to know. So we could do that, provide a code and description with the codified view.
And sorry, last question, that's slightly more technical. All the web services right now in VR are SOAP web services. Is that okay with you guys? You guys don't need a REST API or something like that? Okay. So because if we're using...
we can do REST.
Okay. So I'd rather stick with SOAP also. So as again, all the libraries are all there, and I don't need to create new stuff. So with that said, I don't think I'll return you an XML per se. Like it would be in the WSDL, and with the WSDL you could generate the object to like the return object, right? Or the list of return objects. So that might be easier for you on the code side also, instead of having to parse the XML and or trying to use an XSD to generate the object. So from the WSDL you should be able to do it.
Okay. That'll work.
This is Nadia. I have a question about timeline. Can you give us an estimate of the time that would be required from quote to through build and testing to get all this underway? I love that someone chuckled.
I'm so sorry. So I know we've talked about this a little bit, Nadia. It sounds like what we're going to have to do to get to your go live date is do the export, the FTP drop first, and then long term look at this web services, because we have to on our side revise our contract with the vendor in order to have approval from the state to pay for this. And of course, we'll have to talk about, once we do get a quote, kind of get back with the legal team and see how we're going to cover that between Shelby County and us. So I wish I can give you a better timeline than that, but it'll probably take some time.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So if we get a flat file, will we be able to get it periodically until we can do something with the web services?
Yeah, we should be able to do the nightly drop for you until we can get this web services going.
Okay. And then it would be nice to figure out if we could do like a test one before too long, and that way I can start doing some kind of coding on my side.
Yeah, when would you need that by? I know you guys are trying to go live. Is it January?
You know, if we go live at end of February is our kind of general date, February 20th.
Okay.
The exact date. But what would be, I think, an asset for us is if we had access to the information for user acceptance testing, or at minimum for training, so that we're able to use the system as it would operate post go live.
Okay, and what would your
acceptance testing starts second week in November. I was trying to get you a quick flip real quick and get you an exact date, but it's the second week in November.
Okay.
For acceptance.
Right. But I
and
need
then training is
and
the month of January.
Okay.
But I still need time to code for it. If I could get a file within like the next week or so, that at least a sample one that I can use to start creating some a batch process on my side, that would be great.
Okay. I'm not sure about a week. I'll have to talk to Michael and see what his team has on his plate. I know there's somewhat resemblance of a file that we can kind of use.
At least a layout or something that I can start creating something on my side.
Okay.
Because otherwise I have to hold off until that happens.
Yeah, and Jennifer, I know you've got several high priority
We
BI
do.
requests, so it'll be dependent. Yeah, it'll be dependent on their availability once some of those come off their plate.
Okay. We'll get with you and we'll talk through those, Michael, and I'll let you know as soon as I am able, Colleen.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Right.
All right. Go around the room again. Ron, Peter, Kelvin, anything else? Any other questions?
Good on my end.
Okay. Shelby County, Colleen, Nadia, anybody else?
No, I don't have any questions, but I do want to say thank you for sharing some time with us this morning to help us think through this and plan for our go live. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
This is John. Just as soon as I have that list back on the infrastructure side, I'll send it out to the group.
Perfect. Thank you. And I took some notes. Like I said, I recorded it. I took some notes. I'll pass these out, and hopefully we'll get this going.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, Michael, are you still